I had neighbors who were playing hockey. And they were internationals while they were in high school. They used to be amazing, and they used to come with these Kenya branded tracksuits and the wheelie bags, and they used to speak a lot of then what seemed like Indian dialect, which after a while, having understood a bit of Hindi, it was just some concoctions of words here and there to confuse people, but it was a nice one.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, viewers from wherever you're watching us from. It's your host here at Wima Sports, where we are championing sports development. And as you know, we are at Osoita Lodge, where indeed guests become family. Today, we are honored and humbled to have a great person in sports in Kenya. And I know he needs no introduction. You guys have heard his name probably, and now you have a chance now to put a face to his name, or probably you've known him, both name and face. It's a great honor to have him with us, and you can't mention ladies hockey in Kenya without mentioning Coach Senge. Coach Meshack Senge, karibu sana.
Asante.
It's a great honor having you.
I'm humble.
Yes, sir.
Extremely.
So viewers will be talking about, coaches, winning strategies for elevating women's hockey in Kenya and beyond. And it's so evident with what he does. You've seen what he's done with the Strathmore ladies team. You've seen what he's done since he stepped into the Kenya women's hockey team. And more and more are coming. How did you get into sports?
Wow. I think by default, I found my dad was a sports person. My dad, I don't know if he played team sports, but he was track and field. And so I used to see him go to the stadium. He represented his municipality then. Those days it used to be called Kinska Games, Kenya Intermunicipality Games. And I think I drew from that strand of DNA. And I did a bit of track events. I was a sprinter.
Wow.
My best time in sprint was 10:4.
Wow.
Yes, but then my first love was soccer. And interestingly, I was a goalkeeper in soccer.
I was thinking of number 6 on defense.
When I started, I was a keeper. Because the people who I was playing with were better players, bigger players than myself. I was very little and very tiny in frame, and they were very big and robust. So the place they didn't want to play in was goal. And I saw an opportunity there. I tried. I liked it. And in the entire primary school life, I played as a keeper, as a goalkeeper. I think I got to the zonals team as a standard 6 pupil. Whereas at standard 6, I was very young. I was probably 13-year-old. And then I was playing with these big guys with very heavy shots. And I managed to hold my own. And then I did my KCSE. Now, when I did my KCPE, I did my KCPE in the space that you're waiting to join high school. I had neighbors who were playing hockey. They were international players. And they were internationals while they were in high school.
Wow.
2 of them, actually. So they used to be amazing. And they used to come with these Kenya branded tracksuits and the wheelie bags. And they used to speak a lot of then what seemed like Indian dialect, which after a while, having understood a bit of Hindi, it was just some concoctions of words here and there to confuse people, but it was a nice one. So they were the talk of town. They were smart guys, they were neat guys, they widely traveled, and they liked me. I was their small little boy in the estate. So they actually gave me my first hockey stick.
Wow.
So when I joined Form 1, of course, when you join Form 1, there's an array of sports. You're introduced to this sport.
Yeah.
Already had something for soccer. And I was quickly absorbed with the school team for soccer. But then I had this growing appetite for hockey. So I was torn between hockey and soccer. And it became a very big fight for me. Because I remember getting caned quite a bit for refusing to go to soccer.
Wow.
Soccer training days and hockey training days were the same.
Colliding.
And the competition days was on the same days as well. So I couldn't have both. It was either or. And the soccer coach couldn't just understand how this young, good, enterprising keeper with, they say I have a lot of personality, wants to drop. And him, the coach was actually a keeper. He played for Villa FC in Uganda, then he came to teach in Kisumu. Because I went to school in Kisumu Boys High School.
Kisumu Boys?
Yes.
I went to Kisumu Boys.
That's my alma mater. 89 to 91, that was my period, and yeah, we won all the nationals then. Wow. So
now we understand. You know, when you go to Kisumu Boys, there's some boards
the board,
that
yes.
yeah. We understand. We used to see hockey.
So so being what it is, I because hockey had a lot of travel as well. I chose hockey. By the time I was in Form 3, I was already playing in a setup for the national team in internationals.
Yeah.
So that's how I ended up in sports. I have never looked back. Sports has offered me a job, paid for my education, opened avenues. I think I'm quite traveled, and largely courtesy of sports. And now it's my turn to give back.
Yeah.
So I'm really into giving back. I do academy stuff. I do long-term athlete development. I mentor players. I offer to help where and when I can.
So what can you say? How can you describe sports in 2 words for you?
Sports is absolute necessity for wholesome human development.
Wow. Absolute necessity for wholesome
human development.
Wow.
Sports teaches you things that even lectures in the university can teach you. Sports teaches you teamwork. Sports teaches you communication. Sports teaches you decision making. Sports teaches you how to relate, interpersonal relationships, temperament management, how to handle losses, how to handle wins, how to stay humble. Gives you a challenge to reach to limits that probably your psyche doesn't know that you could get to. Yes, so it gives you always a platform to achieve that which probably you don't know you could. And I refer back to what Eliud Kipchoge said, that no human is limited. And that is courtesy of sport.
Courtesy of sport.
He didn't believe. He says, yeah, we can do this in under 2, and did it. So, and now with that, he propelled people like Kipchoge to actually try without assistance.
Yeah.
And that is courtesy of sport.
Courtesy of sports. I'm already having goosebumps, you know, and we're just getting started, less than 10 minutes into the interview. So you got into sports, and it's something that you loved and you passionately do. How's your background as a former, Kenya international men's hockey team player influence your coaching style currently?
Wow, that's an interesting one. I played for the national team from 1989 to 2007.
Wow.
That's quite a period in there.
Yeah.
20 plus years in the international frame. And then I messed up my knee, and that's how I stopped playing. But I didn't know where else to turn to. So I thought about coaching. But my experience in the game, in between, I played in Europe for 7 years. In Italy, specifically, and I speak Italian like I speak English. So
What?
of course, davvero. Parlo benissimo la lingua italiana. Tanti che io ho fatto un buon lavoro in Italia. Really, just to say that. It's been quite a while in Italy, 7 years.
Wow.
For 2 clubs. Played for Hockey Club Sweli. Actually coached after came back to coach Hockey Club Sweli. Hockey Club Sweli is a very big club in Italy. It's A1, Serie A1, and played for CUS Bologna. CUS is Centro Universitario Sportivo. It's like a university side, but a professional university side. So yeah. But coming back to how my experience in the playing phase has affected my coaching. I happened to be coached by one Dutch guy. It's called Roger van Gent. And we were doing Africa Cup of Nations in Nairobi. So this guy is seconded by FIH. FIH is the international governing body for hockey. And this guy brings a totally new outlook to how we approach games, how we prepare for games. He brings analytics into it, he brings systems and structures. And I'm like, really, this is new to me. He tells us what the other team is going to do before we do it, and it was just amazing to see what he talked about really happening on the field. Get back to stuff about video analysis, and I said, I probably want to do this. So that is a guy who actually inspired me into coaching. Yes, because of his methodology, his processes, systems, how we press, how we outlet. We don't just get in there and play. We have a plan.
Yeah.
And I thought, and naturally I'm a very structured person, so I fit well within his structure, and I just leaped into it from there.
One of the huge, assignments maybe you've had or you've ever had is, preparation for the Olympic qualifiers. How was it for you? How was picking those pieces from your Dutch coach? How was it for these preparations and the competition and the Olympic qualifiers?
All the teams that I coach understand that I'm a process coach. So I scout. I scout a lot on what my opposition is. I know what to expect of the type of play, what they want to play, the system they're going to play, and try to work something to counter what they're going to play. So we don't just show up. We create a plan, and when we get this scenario, these are the possible scenarios, these are the possible solutions. Do I have the players to fit within that? Sometimes that becomes a challenge, but we try and build the players. Again, unfortunately, within our setup, people start to play the game in probably high school, but they are not proficiently enabled to understand or to execute technical play. So they rush on adrenaline and show talent, and we can comfortably just hit the ball and win, whereas there are processes to winning. So when now they come into club hockey and now they're getting exposed to systems of play, structures of play, it takes a bit of time to readjust, to unlearn and relearn. And that is now where the challenge comes in. And now, specifically for me, preparing for the Olympic qualifiers, which I think went very well for us. And then we had one bad blip that actually cost us, I think, in my opinion, the slot for a shot at the Olympics this time, because I think we had a very good side. We won all our pool games. We topped the pool unbeaten. And then we were meeting in the semis, the weakest team in the tournament. And then in boxing, it's called a lucky punch. they scored against us. I think the players' mindset was also such that this is an easy game.
Yeah.
We're going to win this.
We have it.
We're already looking at playing in the finals before we actually played the finals.
Yeah.
And we were, I think we let our guard down, and we were not as intense approaching the game as we should have been. And I had quite a bit of uncomfortable moments with the players. You know, we are not psyched on, we are not switched on the way we should in this. So we conceded in the third minute. And Nigeria stopped to play from that point, and then they just defend. And that's okay. That was a game plan. And we could, in that game, have scored probably another 5-6 goals. But again, in winning, sometimes there's the element of luck, which we totally missed in this one. We had a total of 12 penalty corners. In the games that we played against what I'd consider better opponents, out of 5 penalty corners that we have, we scored 3. In this game, we against an opponent that is not as smart in defending, we have 12, we don't score 1.
Wow.
We missed on the line probably 3 or 4 times. On the line, that is easier to score than to miss, and you still miss. So sometimes fate also has it that it's not your day, it's not your day.
Yeah, that's true.
And we didn't fail, we learned. And now, picking up the pieces from there, it was a lesson in game management, in humility, and we know that it's not over until it's over, and you're only as good as your current game, not you yesterday's game.
Yeah, that's true. So probably there might be, a coach, someone who'd like to be a coach, either in hockey or any sport, because this question cuts across all. As a coach, sometimes in that moment, you can see your team, you can see your players, and you feel they're not wanting this, or probably you could tell that before even you spoke it, as a coach, how do you get to balance in such moments where you see what's happening, you choose your words wisely not to affect the team at that moment, but also you have to win?
It's the realization that you don't play. You're the coach. Your work ends on the training field. On the pitch, it's the players to execute. The best you can do is to motivate them, try and lift them up.
Yeah.
So that is where it comes to play for the coach, that are you able to lift these people who are trying so, because I thought in that tournament, in this particular game, we worked so hard and not smart. We only needed to work smart. And I think there was also a lot of self-belief within the players that we can do this. So they try to resolve it in the way they know how. And when you try to go that route, then sometimes it could work, it could not work.
Yeah.
But from a coaching perspective, the only thing you can do is probably to tweak the personnel or the systems of play to try and get something that produces a little bit more output than what you're having at that moment. And we tried all that.
Yeah.
We tweaked systems, we tweaked players. It wasn't just happening for us. So sometimes there is something we call the X factor play, where this player resolves the game for you. He just grabs the game by the scruff of its neck and drags everybody along with it, and does what they need to do. So that didn't happen for us that day. It didn't happen. This was that day when they say when it rains it pours. And interestingly, we played after that a Ghanaian side that was very organized and very robust, and we beat them better than we beat them in the pool games. It was more convincing way of play and winning than what we did earlier on, and they were way better than Nigeria. So we missed out just like that.
And
lessons learned. We move on.
Yeah, we move on, and as you said, it's a process, and it's a process of building up for the better. Amongst the many things that you've done, you're a man of many hats. You recently got a master's degree in sports science. Congratulations for that. And how has this, degree helped your coaching abilities, towards steering women hockey development in the nation?
Sports is science. And probably that's where we miss it out. And there are 4 facets to preparation. There is a physical, the technical, tactical, and the mental. All these have a bearing on science. The physical bits that you do have a huge input from science. Which muscles do you want to work with? Which are your tweak muscles? Which are when you're doing tacticals, what is your body shape like? What is your center of gravity, for example? And these are things that sometimes we assume because they come natural. But if you have an insight into how your center of gravity or your backlift affects your acceleration, change of direction, then you can actually manipulate certain aspects, the data that you pick from this, because science is really data. Then there is the hugest bit of it, which is the most neglected bit, and that's the mental bit. And sports science has a very huge disposition on mental science, mental health science towards preparations. All elite clubs will have psychologists. They'll have mental people. They'll have some actually have psychiatrists with them. And what is this which space is this player in now to compete? How comfortable is this player with the food, the nutrition regime? How comfortable is this player with the teammates? What is the situation at home? There are things that gives a comfort space to perform at your optimum. But there are things that for us in this space, sometimes we assume we just get these players and one size fits all. But we have to strata it into individuals. So Jermaine is having this kind of background. What are his triggers to perform? What are his triggers not to perform? What are his sleeping patterns? Things as mundane as sleeping patterns are critical. We sometimes want to just show up in the tournament. We just did all of your games 2 weeks ago. The hockey team appeared at the games day 2, but appeared on the pitch 6 hours in the last 48 hours leading to the game. It slept for only 6 hours.
Wow.
And for people who don't understand science, but they appeared, they are on the pitch, they should play. Or people who understand science, understand aspect of fatigue, aspect of lactic acid setting in, aspect of mental preps. Hence the reason why people need to acclimatize. There's a lot of humidity, the temperature. What is the food like in those spaces? What are the kind of foods that we're used to eating? Do we carry food stuff from home? Teams that are elite will carry their own chef. To maintain the... Yes. I remember in 98, we did the Commonwealth Games in Kuala Lumpur. I was a player then. And I had the unique opportunity to interact with the New Zealand team then, with the likes of Forbes and John Along. And we had a very interesting conversation. And they had a whole kitchen of New Zealand food for the rugby team. They won the Commonwealth Games. But they were eating that which they're used to, their natural foods. I know that the Kenya team then unfortunately, most of our sports people are not coming from affluent backgrounds. Unfortunately. So there are things that actually excite us. So we go to this place and there's an open bar for ice cream. And you can actually pick a whole bowl, 5 kilogram bowl of ice cream, go with it to your room. And that's what happened to most of the athletes.
Yeah.
I remember certain boxers, and because of the information that they're given, that they weigh in at the beginning and there's no more weighing in. That's the idea they had. And it was true to a certain extent that there was no weighing in between.
Yeah.
So they set up the register, they weigh. So they're put in the proper category of bouts. But they didn't know that a day before they have to weigh again.
Wow.
Or that was not communicated effectively to them.
Yeah.
So these guys are biting off at ice cream every day. And ice cream gives you weight.
So fast. It does so fast.
I've never seen people suffer like that in my entire life. These people, I know somebody who was trying to lose 2 kgs in a day. What? And we were given quite a number of tracksuits. This guy was putting on all his tracksuits, running all over the place like a madman.
In between a competition where you need to...
He's boating tomorrow.
Wow.
He's boating tomorrow, but he's 2 kilograms overweight.
Yeah.
So the risk is that he's not going to be registered for the bout.
Yeah.
You in the national team, you're not going to bout because you're overweight. This guy went into the showers, with hot shower, with all his tracksuit, all his sweat tracksuits. He's trying to sweat to cut down weight. And I was telling myself, okay, you might lose the 2 kgs. Valid, and therefore you bout. But do you have the strength to fight? And this is where now sports science comes in. What do we eat? Do we have a dietary plan? Do we know how to monitor phases of training? Where are we at in this space? The analytics is key, is important. And I think this is one space. In my solid conversations with NOC, we explained the reason why we should do a high performance center within the setup of NOC. And they actually sold to the idea. And I know that people within NOC are seriously considering establishing a high performance center. All the best teams in the world do high performance centers in their localities. South Africa have one. That's the one I know about. I'm not sure about Egypt, but I know South Africa have a high performance center in Pretoria. Europe has, even for clubs, high performance centers. And Kenya being the hub for sports and the various kinds of sports, if we only did a high performance center that people are made to understand and buy into the use of science and data, we'd be totally untouchable.
That's
because
true.
We are natural athletes.
Yeah. And you remind me of what, Andrew Omonde once said. We had him here with us, and he told us, Kenyans, if they're just given the basics of sports science, you won't see them. So if all that is considered and we get to have a high performance center, for sure, we'll be super competitive.
I pray for that day. I really pray for that day. We did a presentation, and they bought the idea, and they said they were going to start small, at least with an analysis center. I was watching what Coach Kim is doing with Omanyala right now.
Yeah.
And that is the route to go. This 1 RPM that he's doing will really help Omanyala.
True.
But that is only one athlete. It's supposed to be a standard for
across board.
Across board, yes.
Yeah. I'm just trying to internalize all that at the same time as we champion sports development here at Wima Sports. Could you discuss, some of the challenges and opportunities as a coach, as a former international player that you've encountered within the national and universities levels of hockey as a game?
University sports is amazing. You get people working with Strathmore. University sport, there's always a huge turnover. And Strathmore does a sports scholarship program, and that means every year we replace the graduating students. So every year, if we're having 3 graduating, then we'll recruit another 3.
Yeah.
So we have a cycle going on. So our catchment area is really the schools. These kids coming from school have no idea about club environment.
Yeah.
And the mechanics, the dynamics that go with it. So in the first year, they have a lot of belief, because some of them have played in the East Africa National School Games, and they believe that they know.
They know.
And when they come here and they find a totally different setup, and
like,
they get
what?
confused in between. You're telling me not to hit the ball, and I've won the nationals just hitting that ball.
Yeah.
You're telling me to possess, and we won East Africa beating people just by hitting the ball. I said, yeah, that's okay. But who are you playing against?
True.
And what was the kind of surface you're playing against? When now you come to the league and you get this opponent before you, who has played 15 years of club hockey. You've not played one month of club hockey. Even before you think about just the way you position your body, this opponent probably knows what you're going to do. So you have to be smarter than them. The advantage would be that you are fitter, you're quick learner, you got youth on your side, so you got legs. But they have a lot of experience and a lot of know-how into the game. So now, when we get into spaces like this, the turnover, when people get to 3rd year, that's when they've understood. That's when they've understood what club hockey really is about. And then in the 4th year, now you're getting the best out of them. And then they graduate and they're out. Then you reset again the clock.
Wow.
So the challenge normally would be about turnover. The support, speaking specifically for Strathmore, the support is there, but is it enough? No. The university, for example, supports 11 disciplines, and the budget, they'll tell you it's their core business. The core business is research. So sports is extracurricular, and they cannot invest as much as a club would, for example. What Butali would put in the team. Strathmore can't do that because it's not their core business. So the investment and the return of it is variant in university sport. The experience and know-how is not what you want to have. But now for us to mitigate as Strathmore, our strength then lies in our systems of play and structures of play and discipline. And with that, we've been able to win the Premier League men 3 times and the women once. But we've finished second runners-up 5 times. And we are the only university that has won the Premier League.
Wow.
We are the only university that has played in the finals of continentals, both men and women. And largely just because of our systems of play and structures of play and educating the players on how it works, people understanding the roles. So times for training becomes also a big issue, whereas a team like police would probably have the whole day to train. The students have got to go to class.
Have to pass.
And they have to pass.
And
there's a pressure of doing stuff at home with your family as well. So, and you only have a window of 1.5 hours to train. Is that sufficient to play a competitive sport? Absolutely not. But that's what we work with, and we try and push ourselves to that trail.
And I think I saw a few pictures. You were training with them yesterday?
Yeah. You were really a sleuth. Yeah, we
Putting in work, eh?
We were in the girls. We were doing we're in pre-season right now, and we are actually doing strength and conditioning. So yeah, we want to pack enough power and strength to carry us in the league. And it's interesting. We try and make it. It's difficult. It's heavy lifts.
Yeah.
But we try and make it interesting so people enjoy it, so that they look forward to doing the next one on Tuesday.
Tuesday again. Speaking of power, you've spoken about this in the recent interviews of, improving the offensive power of Strathmore Scorpions. Is the name of the team. Could you elaborate on the tactical adjustments, that you've made in regards to offensive power?
We are trying to work with a system that allows a lot of dynamic movement going forward, and actually pitching more numbers in opposition D areas. So that means we transform our systems from probably overload plays from a back four to a back three. That means now if you have a back four and you change it to a back three, the fourth guy steps into midfield, and therefore you step a midfielder into offensive positions. The thinking is that if we have two attackers, the opposition is comfortable defending with 3 or 2. If we have 5, they'll have to put 6. If they put in 6 in their defense, they can't attack us.
They can't, yeah.
And if we're good with possession, and we are good with game management, then, and we deny them the ball, because they can only score if they have the ball, then we can actually play in your quarter the entire time.
Yeah.
As to whether or not that will work, we're putting a lot of man hours in there to try and see. And this weekend we want to try and play some games and see where we are at, just to gauge if we are picking or where we need to make adjustments.
Awesome. Before we get out of that, probably if someone is interested, where do you guys play, and how can they come watch the games, or how can they get the schedule of the games just to follow in the league?
That's an interesting one this season. On the 20th, we will have a conference meeting between stakeholders and the union. That will give us further direction, because our pitch, normally we would play at City Park. The pitch at City Park is dilapidated and therefore almost condemned. So the union has said it wants to pull it out. We have no clear information right now whether or not when the new pitch will be coming in. I know they're working towards getting a new pitch. Collaboration between the FIH, Ministry of Sports, and the union, and that is at a very advanced level, but we don't know the timelines.
Okay.
So most probably the league will start on Maram pitches, or probably at Simba Union. So those are some of the details that we'll know as and when we have this meeting, and a clear way forward. But normally our games will be played at City Park.
Earlier you had spoken about sponsorship, budget allocation for sports teams, and all that. And sponsorship comes with corporates, comes with all these well-wishers. Being a coach and a former player who's well advanced with the international space, how do you perceive the role of sponsorship and corporate support, in fostering the development and sustainability of women's hockey?
That would be the shot in the arm to get us to the next level. Preparation requires a bit of quite significant financial muscle, which is lacking in Kenyan sports. And the teams that, you can look at the teams that have done well in the international space, and you'll see that they have a sponsor. If you compare the teams that don't have a sponsor and the teams that have a sponsor and the output in the international space, the sponsored teams have, because then they can do camps. Camps help with team synergy, quality time to train, investment in resource, coaching resource, which you can't do if you don't have a sponsor. It becomes too difficult. And motivation. Money is a motivator. You have a sponsor, probably you look at a stipend or allowance for players. You'll have the correct equipment to train. You'll have correct dietary plans. And all these factors really help towards giving an output. When you don't have that, then you're flying blind and you never know where your flight lands you. And you probably would work with faith and hope. But is that enough? In the elite space, absolutely
not. Looking at, just speaking about, the funding around making teams successful, an important exposure, for international competitions, for all that is international tournaments, international friendlies. Do you think such can make a huge difference?
That is part of what sponsorship brings about. And I'll tell you this for free, that, we did South Africa, we did about 10 days before the tournament, when we did the Olympic qualifiers. And the difference was like broad daylight. And that's the advantage of exposure, because we played quite a number of games in between and we are acclimatized. Now, part of the reason why we struggle in Kenyan sport is that we look up to the elite competition. And the players nowadays have access to YouTube. And they will watch German, a South African player, and they have, who now plays for Arsenal, for example. And they actually, your fans, they follow you. Now, when they come into the same space with you and they want to compete against you, they already overrode. They look at it and say, that guy, he plays this. And sometimes they look at just your apparel and like, wow, look at these shoes. I remember once we played in Nairobi, and we, in that space, we were doing supplements, training supplements, and one particular brand that we were using. We were using one team for almost 10 guys. South Africans were using two teams for one person, and they're carrying them in their armpits.
Whoa.
We're having one team for 10 guys, and they're using two teams per person. And you could actually see the amazement of the players. And they look at these South African players and they give them too much respect. That respect makes you not be able to compete.
That's true.
Now, to mitigate that, if we play South Africa every so often, we get used to you and we say, I've beat this guy before. I can take a tackle of him. I can do a dribble of him. After all, he's human. And because we played against each other for a while, I can actually tell what your best move would be. And probably in my muscle memory, register how to counter it. So when we meet as peers and not as this small god, and I'm human down here.
Very true.
So these are the small little things that, a case in point now, Harambee Stars and what they did in the last assignment. It's a combination of what they've been doing in tours and tours and tours. And now the team starts to gel, and when they meet these other teams, they're not overruled by the experience of being at that stage. They already feel, this is our space. Even unafanyaga mambo yetu. And that alone talks to, again, the mental bit of preparation, that the player is in a comfortable space. and they feel they're primed enough and they're armed enough to compete. Because psychologically they say, these guys have nothing new to offer. I can do better than this guy.
Yeah.
And that's the importance of build-ups and preparation. Unfortunately for us, we use the tournaments, the competitions as preparations as well.
Yeah.
So we're doing the All Africa Games, and the first game we play is in the All Africa Games. So there's nothing in between. Like now, the under-21s will be having something in September for hockey. Ideally, by now, we should have a team in place and exposing that team. By now, what South Africans did, and they competed in the under-21s World Cup. They had that team for 2 years before they came for the qualifiers.
Wow. 2 years.
So what is our long-term, short-term, medium-term, and long-term planning for preparations? And these are conversations that I've had with NOC as well, that we wait for the Olympic qualifiers to try and qualify. We are not intentional. And
that's true.
Part of the reason why I do the long-term development, I tell them that if we take 14-year-olds now, and we don't prepare for the Paralympics, we prepare for the Olympics after Paralympics. That's 8 years. 14-year-olds and plus 8 years would be 22 years.
Yeah.
That's the prime age to compete. But these players will have been set in an elite environment with elite coaches, and they're able to get the best out of them. Case in point, the German team that beat, they had the likes of Ozil and Mertesacker, and the one that beat Brazil 7-0 in Brazil.
In Brazil, yeah.
Was a group of young guys trained for 10 years for that particular assignment. So they grew together, and the chemistry and the camaraderie within the team was just awesome. The same thing that Belgium have done with their hockey team. And they borrowed from the German model, put in a group of under-12s, had them for 10 years, and they became world champions. They became world number one. But that is long-term planning.
Yeah.
Do we look at planning in terms of long-term? The jury is out on that.
And you mentioned about development team that you work with, a development camp that you have. Maybe if you can shed more light on that, and how can someone interested, a young person, be part of that?
We run a program, me and my friends, and we have support from Kenya Youth Hockey Foundation, which is Dutch. The Kenya Hockey Union gives us support in terms of the pitch and facilitates a bit of transport. The the Kenya Hockey Foundation gives us equipment and meals for these kids. Most of those kids come from very humble and challenging backgrounds. And then the coaches, myself and my fellow coaches, offer pro bono services. The kids don't pay a cent. They train at City Park from 9 to 11 on Saturdays. One day you should come and watch the under-14s from that group play. We've had these under-14s for now 3 years. You'd be amazed at what their know-how is in terms of technicals and tacticals. And they're amazing kids to play. And that will be the next generation of players in the next, watch this space in the next 7 to 8 years. That group will be the national team. And it's very intentional.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let us know. Let us know when you guys have something next, so we come watch these young guys, support them.
Every Saturday 9 to 11. Even this Saturday 9 to 11.
9 to 11.
Yes. And especially when schools are closed, then we have quite a number of, sometimes we do 120 kids.
Wow. Overwhelming.
Yes. And that shows you, just by the numbers itself, how hungry they are to try to want to learn. And by the other programs end up in scholarships for high schools.
Wow.
Now we have 18 girls who got high school scholarships, and we got 12 boys in high school scholarships.
Why do you do all this? Why do you wake up to do all this?
Do I even know why? I don't think I have an answer. But hockey gave me quite an opportunity in life. Hockey has shaped my life. Hockey has opened so many doors for me. I got to play in Europe for 7 years, and I didn't have as detailed and as tactical, technical coaching as I have now. If I had, probably I would have played in Europe way earlier. And because it gave me an opportunity, I try to hold somebody else's hand, and it's my CSR. I have a small story that there are doors that have ever opened up for me because of what my father did. My father is late now, but I've gone to offices, and just by his name, people offer to help me. And these are very senior people in very serious offices. And they ask me, are you the son of so-and-so? And they tell me, sit here. And they take whatever it is I'm having, and they personally handle my situations just because of what my dad did. So I am also trying to do something for somebody, because they say all the good that you do, you do it yourself, and all the bad that you do, you also do it yourself. So and I'm a believer in Judgment Day. On Judgment Day, the guy upstairs will ask me that I gave you this platform. So how did you use this platform? And I'll comfortably look back and say, you see those people there? I try to touch their lives positively. And I'm sure they can raise their hands up and say, yeah, that guy touched our lives. So it's not by chance that God gave me this talent and this opportunity. It's by design. And I only have to live for His will and His will.
Amen.
And I believe that.
Yeah. So you give and you give and you give yourself out.
And I give myself out.
How do you fill up yourself?
I think it is fulfilling for me just to know that I was able to give. The Bible tells us that you're better off as a giver than a receiver.
Yeah.
And for me, I think that is my purpose in life, to give. So when I give, I feel that I am fulfilling my purpose in life.
Yeah. Lastly, what's the vision of women's hockey? What's the vision of women's hockey?
That's a nice one.
Yeah.
Women's hockey should be top of Africa, and I believe that, and should be able to compete. No, the men's team have played in the Olympics before. Women have not, and I know they have the capacity to. Are we investing enough? Are we prepping them enough to do that? No. But is the union trying? Yes. Are they resourcing it enough? No. Comes back to the question of sponsorship. And if we get that, for sure, they'll be able to hit the milestones that the men have been able to hit in the years before. The future of women hockey, I think there is a lot of pedigree and a lot of girls coming through. Unfortunately for girls sport is very delicate. Yeah. And when somebody is done with their college life, it becomes totally murky. Probably get married, and the person they got married to doesn't support sport as much. So they become a wife and not a sports person. As opposed to men who, even at 50, they still want to go and play soccer in some
aside, yeah.
And they expect the wife to be at home to cook for them. So the mindsets, if we are able to change the mindsets and see sport as wellness first,
yeah,
as wellness and therefore a healthy lifestyle, then I think that would be a huge step. But if we look at sport as competition, then we lose it, because there are better things that you could do with your time.
Yeah.
But if we looked at sport as one world, you're staying fit, you're staying healthy, you're creating useful social capital, then it will be sustainable.
On to the quick-fire segments. What specific mental preparation strategies are you implementing, to ensure the Kenya women's national team is ready for the upcoming tournaments?
Prime is analysis. When the players know what to expect, they're able to make decisions. In that space, the difference between winning and losing is the kind of decisions that you make on the pitch. And with information, then you're better placed to make useful and correct decisions.
Yeah. The impact of embracing sports science in Kenyan sports.
Again, information.
Information
is power, and with power, with science and data, you're able to plan and make useful decisions.
In your opinion, the single most important factor for nurturing young talent and increasing participation in women's hockey and any other sports?
Empathy and compassion.
Empathy and compassion.
Yes.
Wow. Best sports documentary, if you've ever watched any?
I don't know if this is a documentary.
Yes.
But Coach Carter.
Coach Carter, yes.
I don't know if it's classified as a documentary. But that touched me. And I've believed in that. Yeah.
I remember Coach Carter. Watched it several times.
I watched it until today.
You keep getting new convictions.
Yes.
Best sports athlete?
Omanyala.
Ferdinand.
Yes.
What do you think? Will he be able to beat his 9.77?
You should ask me why Omanyala.
Why Omanyala?
Yes.
There you go.
Let's start. Omanyala is a rugby player.
True.
He's a sevens player. Omanyala has moved from rugby into athletics and conquered it. Now the face of Kenyan athletics is Omanyala.
True.
Omanyala has come from Abano and conquered. A mark of resilience.
Yeah.
A mark of, I can do this. A mark of, anything is possible. And my other athlete is Eliud Kipchoge. I would put in probably Faith Kipyegon in there.
Yeah. She's another crazy one.
These are people who transcend boundaries and borders. And for me, that is what a sportsman is supposed to be, that you're not limited you're not comfortable with achieving this. You're always on to the next. Yes.
And Kenyans, as you know, we have a great opportunity to see them at the upcoming Kipkeino Classic. You can just check their socials. I'm not so sure on the date. I saw it, but it didn't stick. I was just passing through. And it will be at Nyayo National Stadium. Best sports recovery. As a sports science person, best sports recovery method or equipment.
What is most affordable is the ice bath. People who do protein shakes to resupplement your electrolytes, isotonic drinks, but the ice bath, for me, is what is available and most affordable.
Most affordable.
Yes.
There you go. Coach Meshack Senge.
Sir.
Thank you so much for being with us. But before we let you go, if you can speak to this camera and just speak to a 17-year-old you, what would you do different?
Hi. As a 17-year-old, you're at the prime of exploring your potential. You are as good as you want to be. And no human is limited. If you trust what your gut feeling, follow it. But just remember that sport is not only competition. Sport is a lifestyle. Sport is wellness, and sport opens so many other doors. It makes you a complete person. Embrace sport, and you'll thank me later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Coach. It was a great having you. Viewers, it was a great having you too. Until next time, it's your host here at Wima Sports, indeed, where we are championing sports development. And remember, things are just getting better, not just in the world, but also here in Kenya and in Africa. We are coming for you, the world. We are about to conquer the world. Signing out, it's your host, Jermaine, at Osoita Lodge, indeed, where guests become family. Salute.